Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National At-Home Dad Network's live webinar series. My name is Matt Strain, and we're here with our December webinar. First time we've ever done one of these, but we're excited for a special guest today. Our guest today is Pierce Freelon. Pierce is an African-American musician, educator, author, politician from here in Durham, North Carolina. He has been nominated now for 2 different Grammy Awards in family music. He's a former Durham City Council member and the founder of Blackspace, which is an Afrofuturist digital makerspace. He also co-founded the Beatmaking Lab, which is an Emmy Award-winning PBS web series. He's the co-director, writer, and composer of The History of White People in America, which is a PBS animated series. He's taught in the departments of African American and Diaspora Studies and music at UNC Chapel Hill, as well as the Department of Political Science at North Carolina Central University. And he is also a former board member of the North Carolina Arts Council. So the man is definitely very, very, very busy. We greatly appreciate you guys coming to join us. I am seeing currently that we are having a little bit of difficulty streaming to Facebook right now. Let me look and see what is going on. Yeah, not sure why we are not streaming to Facebook, but for those of you who are trying to join us on Facebook, please switch over to our YouTube channel. You can watch us there live. It is the National At-Home Dad Network on YouTube. We are live there as well. I deeply apologize to those of you who are trying to watch on Facebook. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Pierce onto the stage.
Hey.
Good morning, Pierce.
Good morning.
So, again, I'm very honored to have you on with us today. You and I've been working with your agent and the rest of it for, geez, I think about 6 months now. Unfortunately, when I went to go see you with the paper hand puppet intervention, that was the day that it got rained out.
Oh.
And when you guys did the reschedule, I actually had a class all day that day. So my mom got to go in my place along with my wife and kids, and they enjoyed everything. Took lots of videos, most of which my children giggled and danced through the entire time.
Nice.
But it is so great to have you on here. I want to start off by saying congratulations on the 2nd Grammy nod.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is for Best Family Music, correct?
Children's music, yeah.
Children's. Okay. Well, I know that you prefer the term family music as opposed to children's music.
I do.
Well, I mean, again, as parents, most of us have all dealt with listening to the children's music that we don't necessarily enjoy. Some of it tends to be a little grating, but I've enjoyed all of your music. It's suitable for the kids, but it's not bad for mom and dad either. You just recently did a post with that Help to Do the Work.
Yeah.
Video, which my wife, who's a psychiatrist over at UNC Hospital, she thought that was absolutely amazing.
Wow, thank you.
Plans on bringing that video in on YouTube with some of the younger patients to help them with that whole box breathing idea. But the thing that I'm fascinated by is that your new album, Ancestars, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about like where this came from? Because it's a pretty deep album.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the Ancestars is an album that I wrote with my mom, and my mom is a wonderful jazz musician, and we've both, as a family, not just us, but our families have experienced a lot of loss in recent years. My dad passed away. We had a nephew that passed. Her sister, my aunt Debbie, passed away, and so my mom started this podcast called Great Grief. And we were writing songs that were inspired by the love that we have for our for our lost family, or lost, I can use air quotes, I guess, for our family members who have transitioned. And I've got kids. My sister and brother both have littles, and it has been really important for our family to lean in to the kids and engage with them and have conversations with them. A lot of them are too young to really wrap their minds around the kind of change that and the finality of death. So, how do you approach these conversations? How do you make it palatable and also have some tools for them to be able to process the emotions that come up as these questions of, I'm never going to see Pop again. These are like important questions. And the music really was a very authentic and organic extension of those conversations we were having with my kids, her grandkids, nieces and nephews, nibblings, about these questions of life and transformation and loss and death.
Yeah, I mean, this is a heavy topic, and a lot of us are going to have to address it with our kids eventually. My father passed almost 10 years ago now. And fortunately, he hung on long enough to meet his first grandchild.
Oh, that's nice.
But he passed a little over 4 months after that. So my daughter is aware that, she had a prepare, but like she knows him through pictures and the rest of it. Not necessarily like in person. Luckily, again, knock on wood, we haven't had any big losses in our community or our lives since the kids have gotten old enough to really talk about it. My daughter is about to turn 10. We just sent out birthday party invitations today.
Congrats.
And my son is now 6. So that while it's not something that we've dealt with yet, again, my mom is in her upper 70s at this point. My wife's parents are in their late 60s, early 70s. So, I mean, this is definitely a conversation that we're going to have. Now, one of our viewers right now, Arvis Burkeen, who's out in Phoenix, Arizona, Arvis said that he likes the use of the word transition versus using passed away or another terminology when speaking about death to anyone, but especially kids, because it's so hard to talk about. And again, in a lot of ways, it's letting them know that while that person may not be here, they're not like completely gone.
Yeah.
How do you address that?
Well, obviously, like a grandparent is a lot of times the first encounter with death for a kid, and not always. Sometimes it can be something closer, to them in age. That's 2 generations away, and but kids sometimes they'll lose a pet, or they'll out in nature, you'll see death as a naturally occurring phenomenon. Maybe you're going on a hike and you see a squirrel decomposing in the woods. The idea of death is something that is very natural. And as the commenter mentioned, it can be difficult to talk about, but it's also it's also the most natural thing a human being can do. And I think that's the first part of it, is like, this is not strange. It's not abnormal. In fact, it's inevitable. I'm going to pass away one day. I'm going to transition. You're going to transition. Everyone who's ever lived, will one day experience this thing that is a part of being human. So that I think is an important first step to demystify the conversation about death. It sounds like this, spooky thing, like, oh, like goblins and skeletons, like Halloween. It's not. It is this very natural thing. And in fact, it is, like I said, is the most natural thing that a human being can go through. And if if you didn't die, that would be really scary, because then you'd be a zombie. Okay,
Right.
so first of all, let's get that part,
We
together.
don't want zombies.
We don't want zombies. So, the other part of it is like the emotional part, right? Like, how do you face the feelings that come up around missing someone? And for me, at first I experienced it personally, but then was able to communicate to my kids that the sadness that you feel when someone is no longer with you, there's a name for that feeling. It's love. It's love. The reason I miss my dad and they miss their pop is because they loved being around him. And naming grief as a form of love is a way to, I think, for me at least, is a way to process it with a healthy understanding of what it actually is. This feeling is love. I love my dad, and I love my auntie. I love my nephew. I love the folks that are no longer here, right? And then the other thing is, I guess the third part. So yeah, I guess part one is like demystifying death as a thing that we all go through. Part two is naming grief as a part of love. If you ever lose something of any kind that you really love, you're going to feel grief about that loss, and that's okay, and it's normal and it's expected. The third thing, I think, which shows up in the show, in the Paper Hand show, and also in my book, Daddy and Me Side by Side, which is a picture book I wrote about my dad, is about kind of legacy. So legacy is really important, especially with grandparents. And my father, has a brilliant legacy. He was an architect. My kids can walk into buildings that he designed and feel his presence there. He designed the house that my mom lives in. So we often talk about, when we go over to grandma's house, like, Pop designed this place, and, we can feel his presence there. But an important part of my dad's legacy was hiking. We used to go on camping trips, on fishing trips, on nature walks. And so this year, I think for the first time since my dad passed away, me and my cousin and my son, who turned 14 this year, went on a camping trip. And it was very much in my dad's memory and in his legacy. And, legacy can be a lot of things. For us, one of those important things is a love and appreciation for nature. And for me, when I'm walking through the same trails that I've walked with my dad, when I'm fishing and remembering the time that we spent together, baiting, casting a line, reeling in a fish, like, I actively feel his presence in those moments. So when you talk about loss, it's like, well, while the physical body is lost, the lessons are still present. The feelings are still warm. The experiences are still rich. And sometimes I just laugh. Like, I'll have a conversation with myself and with my dad, kind of spiritually, like, oh, we got one. Or, I'll poke my finger, baiting the hook, and like, oh, sorry, you taught me how to do this correctly. His presence is summoned when we walk in his legacy. So that's kind of a third piece, I think.
Now, again, that definitely speaks to me and my family. We're big hikers as well.
Nice.
We haven't quite figured out the fishing thing yet. I grew up in South Louisiana, where you could just drop a hook anywhere you felt like. There's a lot of laws and rules here in Durham County. as far as like getting a license and where you can fish and where you can't. So as soon as I get that figured out, my daughter has made me promise that I will take her fishing this summer, no matter what. Now, Arvis brought up again that God called his mom. His boys called her Bonga 6 months ago. So it's tough, but you know, as he said, this topic will be spoken about for our entire lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is another part of legacy. You know, there are certain traditions. If you watch the movie Coco, you know, which is about the Day of the Dead, there are certain Chicano, indigenous, African traditions where talking about your ancestors is an important part of the culture, right? Like, and I come from one of those traditions. I have an altar for my dad. I have an altar for my grandmother, and getting an altar is like that's like a special thing, and it's a thing that celebrates your life and your legacy and the love and the lessons that you poured into us. And you know, I think that that's something that can be kind of lost in American culture. We have, like a lot of things. I mean, look at you know, my grandmother used to always say, you know, during Christmas, you know, Christ is the reason for the season. You know, this is supposed to be Jesus's birthday. What are we doing with the presents and the trees? Like, what are we doing with the Easter bunny? This is supposed to be the, you know, the resurrection of Christ. And interestingly enough, you know, take pretty much any holiday, it's become that. You know, the Day of the Dead that I mentioned earlier, which in this country we call Halloween, is like about costumes and candy. But if you trace that back to its roots, it's really about celebrating your ancestors. It is a day where you light candles and you thank grandma and great grandma and great great grandma, and you tell stories and you remember and you honor. It's a 3-day long celebration. The third day, I learned recently, is for lost children, for people who lose kids. Which a lot of people, another thing people don't talk about a lot is, you know, infant loss and miscarriage. Like these are things that people go through.
And again, miscarriage is something that affects a lot more families than people realize. And too many families don't feel comfortable properly mourning that loss.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
at our convention last year, we actually had a speaker who came and did a breakout specifically on dads addressing that kind of loss. Because you know, not only do moms experience this, but like dads do as well, because you were just you're a part of that child as well.
Sure.
You know, maybe not, you know, growing that life inside of you, but you still had that life inside your heart. And that's definitely a tough one. Now, you've mentioned a couple of books here. I just want to make sure. I'm assuming that if they go to your website, there are links to where they can find these books.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we gave everybody access, because again, all I have to do is drop into the Regulator on 9th Street and they've got all your stuff, because we love the locals. But for the guys who aren't here in Durham, North Carolina, you could go to Pierce's website and pick things up. Now, we had talked a little bit about your album. I hope you don't mind. I've gone ahead and pulled up the Little Mushroom song.
Oh yeah,
because
sure.
it is by far my favorite piece on the album.
Nice.
For the guys who know me through the organization, I'm really big on foraging wild mushrooms, and I've infected my children with it to the point that like they cannot go in the woods without like looking for free groceries now, and get really upset when I remind them, no, you're in a state park. We're not allowed to forage here without a permit. But for those who aren't familiar, let me go ahead and show you guys. Here we go. And this is Little Mushroom with the paper hand puppet intervention.
Trust you, little mushroom. Break it down, down, down. When a tree falls in the forest, bring life and you flourish. Break it down, down, down. Little mushroom, growing on a tree that's fallen, that died in the forest. Turn the grave to a garden. Thank you, little mushroom. Hey, little mushroom. Even when death is tragic, you're like magic. Reabsorb life and keep balance. Thank you, little mushroom. I trust you, little mushroom. To break it down, down, down. When a tree falls in the forest, you bring life and you flourish. Break it down, down, down. Hey, little mushroom, you're the biggest organism on the planet. You make medicine and decompose organics. You're not a plant or animal, you do your own thing. Recycle nutrients so we can keep on growing. Who needs Mario when you can be a toadstool? Give me some portobello, you can keep your tofu. The fungal kingdom, you deserve a crown. And I love the way you break it down. And you break it down. You break it down to the ground. I love the way you break it down. I love the way you break it down. You break it down to the ground. You break it down to the ground. I love the way you break it down.
Mycelium. Say it with me, y'all. Mycelium. One more time, like mycelium. Break it down.
So, wanted to make sure everybody got an example of what you mean by family music. Now, I will point out that that wonderful young lady that was on stage with you, that is your mom's, right?
Yeah, that's my mom.
Again, my kids were at that, or were at one of the performances for that, and they still talk about it.
That's sweet.
It is such a fun show. It really, really was. One of the things that I really like about that song, though, is that not only does it talk about death in a very positive way, but it really focuses on that whole like circle of life concept.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, that from death comes new life, and that there's tragedy, but out of tragedy comes change, and those changes can bring great things to the world.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, I would even question the tragedy part, right? Is it tragic that things die? I don't think it is. I think that it's natural. I think that it's it can be sad, but it's absolutely predictable. You know, it's expected, and it's normal. It's healthy. So, you know, and what is a death point for one organism can be a birth point for another.
Mm-hmm.
And this is true. My dad had this really cool video that he showed me when I was a kid called The Powers of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It basically shows how the shape of things at a very small size, like the nucleus of an atom being surrounded by electrons, is the same as the grandest things we can observe, like a planet with the moon, or the star with the planets, or the planets around the black hole. Like everything
Right.
is the same shape. And, when I think about death as life from the perspective of a galactic metaphor, I think about like a supernova. When stars die, that is when life begins. That is when heavy elements are created. Everything that we're made of and our planet is made of was born in a dying star at some point. So if you spend too much time grieving the tragedy of the dying, then you miss out on the fact that, hey, we wouldn't be here if that hadn't happened. It's just at every level cyclical. It's as cyclical as the seasons. And thank goodness we don't have eternal summers here like they do on Mars. We have seasons of growth and death, of light and darkness, and those circles are vital for our survival. So that's how I've grown to look at it. And if anyone's interested, in seeing Little Mushroom performed live, we are actually doing an encore performance of the puppet show at DPAC on Valentine's Day.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That means I might actually be able to get to see it this time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So anyone out there is listening, if that video is interesting or inspiring to you, the puppetry is done by a wonderful troupe called Paper Hand, and we will be with them on February 14th of 2024 at the Durham Performing Arts Center in Durham. We hope you'll join us.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Now, I will mention one of the other projects that you work with, and I was not familiar with this up until recently, is the Blackspace. I was blown away by the work that you're doing there. I'd love to give you a chance to talk about it. I don't know if you have digital resources available through the website for the people who aren't living here in Durham. But if you do, I know that we've got some dads who would love to bring their kids in with that, because there's not a lot of maker spaces available out there, especially in the African-American community.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up Blackspace. It's a really warm feeling that I get talking about this work because it's so deeply aligned with my purpose. So yeah, Blackspace is a teen center. Essentially, it is a hangout spot and a maker space where teens can come in and learn about the digital arts. We teach right now every Tuesday and Thursday. There's a beat making workshop where kids can come and learn about music production and sound design and audio engineering. We've done puppetry, coding, poetry, all types of stuff over the years. And it's free. And it is just a space for kids to come and learn and grow and be in community together, all under the banner of Afrofuturism, like helping shape the minds that will lead us into the future. So that's what Blackspace is about. And we don't have a lot of digital resources, though we have been talking with an organization called the Future of Storytelling about creating some curriculum pieces that could live online, almost like a masterclass kind of thing. So, we'll see about that. But in the meantime, it's just a really special spot in Durham.
Yeah.
And if you want to catch a vibe, I think every first and third Friday, the kids from Blackspace host a cypher, which is like a circle of rappers and poets and musicians and beat makers downtown Durham by the Bronze Bull, right there in CCB Plaza across from the Parlor Ice Cream Shop. We gather there, unless it's too cold. If it's too cold, we may, shut it down, but we're in the South. So sometimes it's pretty warm even through the winter. So
I don't know. It was in the 20s when I walked my kids to school this morning.
Ooh, yeah. That time of year. So
it does get cold here on occasion.
On occasion, yeah, especially in the morning, late at night. And we gather at 9:19 p.m., which is the area code here, 919. So check your forecast. If it's anywhere near freezing, we will shut it out. But later in March, April, if you're around downtown on first or third Fridays, you can check us out at this downtown at the CCB Plaza.
Okay, yeah, I would say I will definitely have to bring the kids out that way because I know that they would absolutely love to see that. And honestly, we live right up the road from downtown. We can walk to downtown from our house.
Nice.
And do often. There is easy. On the way back, the 6-year-old tends to complain that his feet are tired, but you know, that's kids.
Yeah.
Look, I love the fact that you're here. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. One of the big things that we do at the National At-Home Dad Network is that we throw a convention every year. Now, we move the location of the convention every year because we want to make sure that dads from different parts of the country have the opportunity to go. Not everyone has the means to be able to fly across the country to go to the convention. This year, for instance, we're in St. Louis, Missouri, literally at the foot of the arch in the Drury Plaza Hotel at the Arch.
Nice.
We haven't really settled on a spot for 2025 yet, but I will point out we have not been in this area since we were in Raleigh in 2016. So hopefully we'll be looping our way back through this neck of the woods eventually. And we'd love to have you come talk to the guys. You know, if that opportunity arises. I mean, I've got your contact information and I know who to reach out to. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, it is the National At-Home Dad Network. That is a link to our website. This January, we're going to be starting our first ever actual membership drive. We are a nonprofit. We are 100% supported by volunteers doing the work, membership dues that people pay, and donations that come from outside. And there are a lot of cool things that come with membership, all from, you know, neat little stickers and magnets all the way down to on the membership side of our website. We've got recordings of past speakers, a selection of past speakers from, you know, conventions in years past. And again, that's everything, topics that are everything from cooking dinner with your wife to, I'm trying to think, I think we just recently have uploaded Dr. Anna Machen's speech from our Minneapolis, which she was an evolutionary anthropologist who did an entire speech on the biological and neurological changes that happen to men when they become fathers. Because these things really do happen and exist. There's a lot out there. Pierce, I absolutely love the work that you're doing. I will ask if there's anything else advice-wise that you have to recommend to the dads who are out there who might need to tackle these questions, whether it's a pet or a family member, or honestly, we're an NPR family. You know, we tend to have NPR on in the car. And lately, a lot of the news has not been incredibly great. And, you know, my kids are asking questions about, you know, what's happening out there. They hear that, you know, people are dying on the other side of the world. And they ask these questions, and they're tough questions to tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, kids are little humans. They're just like you are. They experience the same range of emotions and existential questions that adults face. And I think, you know, my one recommendation, if there was one kind of clear one, it kind of circles us back to the song "Help You Do the Work." it's hard being alive on this planet where so much, negativity and death and destruction is occurring. And if you don't have help yourself dealing with, processing, understanding, wrapping your minds around these, it's very difficult to be of service to your kids who will inevitably be struggling with some of the same things. So the thing though, and this goes back to family music as opposed to children's music, the album is nominated in the children's music category, Ancestars, but the genre that I like to think of my music as a part of is really family music, because the song "Help You Do the Work" is important for parents also. And I have a breath work practice. I do yoga. I meditate. I have ways of regulating my emotions when they get really big.
Yeah.
And not every adult has that. So, I see a therapist. I exercise and different things. Not exercise, to hone in my dad bod. I exercise because I sleep better, and I know when I wake up after a good sleep, like I'm more prepared to deal with the world. I drink water, like, I do things that I've learned over time with this body that helps it operate well. And so these are some of the things, some of the medicines that help me deal with big emotions. Then once I feel like I'm regulated, when my kids have a big feeling or a deep question, I feel prepared to actually ponder that question with them. Maybe not even answer it, but just ponder it with them. And
Yeah, it's a big thing to be able to admit to your kids, I don't know.
right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
Usually it's
wrong with
followed
it.
up with let's find out together.
So that would be it. It would be seek help if you need it, and really take care of yourself, because the better care you take for yourself, the better care you'll be able to deliver to those little ones around us that rely on us so much.
Well, we have always in the National At-Home Dad Network stressed self-care. At our last convention in 2023 in Milwaukee, our opening keynote speaker was Danny Mercer, who did an entire keynote on self-care.
Nice.
And the idea of being able to do that self-care for yourself, and the analogy that, we bounce around a whole lot, is it's just like when you get on the plane. They always say, in the event of an emergency, these masks are all down from the ceiling.
Love it.
You have to put your own on first before you can help your kid.
Yep.
Because it's not going to do anybody any good if you pass out halfway through putting theirs on.
Right.
Now, Arvis just brought up another great question. Do you feel mental health is essential in the everyday life of our children during this day and age?
Yeah, no, I think mental health is essential. I don't know who said mental health lacks importance, but I don't. Let me say, for me, I can speak for myself. Mental health is very important, and I love the metaphor that you gave of the oxygen mask, and for the purposes of the question, let the brain be the one receiving the oxygen, right? If your health needs, if your mental state needs a breather, needs an influx, then it helps the rest of you operate well. For the metaphor that I like to use in that regard is a pitcher with water. And I always like to make sure my pitcher is full. It won't always be full, but I try to every day pour into it. And what's beautiful about that is, when your pitcher is full, it allows you to pour into others. And a lot of what we do as fathers is we pour into our partners, we pour into our children, we pour into our communities, into our jobs. And if you aren't pouring into yourself, right, then you don't have anything to give. And if you pour for everyone else except yourself, then you're parched, very much like the mask thing. So to me, tending to your mental health is just simply pouring. Maybe it's 15 minutes of meditation, maybe it's a 45-minute therapy session, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's a pickup basketball game, maybe it's going to play video games for 20 minutes, to get the dopamine popping.
Yeah, it's whatever recharges your battery.
Whatever recharges your battery.
Yeah.
Go read a book, take a shower, put your favorite album on and just sit in your car after work for 30 minutes and just rock out to your favorite song, then take it off. It doesn't have to be a lot. Each of those could be a small sip, and it's cumulative. Over time, that's going to fill your pitcher and really help your mental health. Now I'm in a great position to be a provider for the people around me because I've first provided for myself. So I think that's important.
Yeah. So you talk about sitting in the car listening to music, and I will say, now that my kids are 6 and 9 and have gotten a little bit older, I think the one thing that I miss more than anything else about when they were little bitty was I used to love it when they had fallen asleep in the car seat behind me. And you'd pull in the driveway and just sit there in the driveway listening to the radio because you're like, I'm not waking them up.
Right.
I'm just going to let them sleep here in the back of the car, and I'm just going to have this absolute time for me.
I love it.
While I'm sitting here in this car, decompressing and relaxing. Now you've mentioned the Do the Work video a couple of times. Now, I got to share it with guys because, we can't leave them hanging. So I got this set up in the background. Oh, wait, I got to take it off full screen to be able to share. Oh, there we go. And here we go.
Why don't you let me help you? You wear so many hats we lost count. Why don't you take a break, put on this crown? We can help you do the work. You don't have to do it by yourself. No, you don't. That could make you go berserk. Just take a deep breath and relax. We can help you with the work. Help with the work. This is how you care for yourself. It's good for your health. We can help you do the work. We can help you do the work. Remember, there's no shame in letting someone help heal your tender. Your strength is never in question. Hear me out, I have suggestions. When you're feeling overwhelmed, if you need a little help, the lesson in the song, you're not in this alone. If you have a tear to shed, here's a shoulder. You wear so many hats we lost count. Why don't you take a break, put on this crown? We can help you do the work. You don't have to do it by yourself. That could make you go berserk. Just take a deep breath and relax. We can help you with the work. Help with the work. This is how you care for yourself. It's good for your health. We can help you do the work.
Everybody needs a hand now and then. Work together, make it easy. In the middle of a storm again, sometimes we get queasy.
Nobody knows.
Well, when you're in trouble,
so let me help.
I'll be there on a double. Never a task. All you gotta do is ask. If you have a tear to shed, here's a shoulder.
You wear so many hats we lost count. Why don't you take a break, put on this crown?
We can help you do the work.
You don't have to do it by yourself. That could make you go berserk. Just take a deep breath and relax. We can help you with the work.
Help with the work.
This is how you care for yourself. It's good for your health. We can help you do the work. All right, we're gonna try some breath work together. Try it with me. Breathe in, breathe out. Good job. Let's try it again. Breathe in, breathe out. Won't you let me help you?
I do have to say, it was a bit of a shock because that was the first time I saw your new haircut.
Oh yeah, yeah. Cut my hair.
I would say it has been years since I've seen any pictures of you with short hair.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm turning 40 in 2 weeks, so I was ready for a change, man.
Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Well, look, Pierce, I cannot thank you enough for giving us your time. I really, really do appreciate it. We definitely, we got the guys definitely involved in this. Chris is up in Connecticut, I think, watching us there. Loves the video, loves the message.
Thank you.
I will remind all of the guys watching, if you go into our website, you will find out, or onto our Facebook group or Discord channel, you will find that we do have a mental health check-in group. It's a mental health support group that meets twice a week. It's anonymous. It's a safe space to talk. It is nothing more than dads being there for each other and letting people know that you're not alone and that we're all in this together. Hopefully I'm going to be starting some new stuff not hopefully, it's going to get started pretty soon in 2024. I just got finished spending the last month and a half or so working on getting my certification here in North Carolina as a peer support specialist.
Nice.
And I'm hoping to, or planning on putting together a support group for some of the dads who need to re-examine their relationships with alcohol and other substances, and getting on top of those kind of things. But again, I've still got a couple more hoops to jump through certification wise. And I want to make sure that, I'm doing things the right way and handling it the way that it should be handled. But we've got the support out there for you guys. And even if you're not looking for something that heavy, on Monday nights and Thursday nights, we do a simple dad Zoom hangout where, sometimes it's just nice to get in a Zoom room full of a bunch of other guys who get it. They've also been being screamed at by children all day. Mm. And we'll remind you that it's not always like that. Most of the time, they're good. Mm-hmm. Now, Arvis brings up the advancement of tech has been both beneficial and a problem. Yeah.
That's an understatement. Ha. Maybe just right on point.
And your thoughts on how to use modern tech and social media to actually help our kids instead of just as a default babysitter.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that yes, tech is a double-edged sword, and it's also here. You can't ignore it.
It's not going away.
Not going away. So I think there are constructive tools, right? There's technology that is about consuming things, and then there's technology that ignites the imagination and is about being creative and generative. And I think as fathers, we can, we need to lean in and distinguish between the two. Like, I see a difference between my kid playing Minecraft or Roblox, which for me are like really architecture, design, world building games, versus games that might just be about death. Call of Duty, for example. One has, or even apps. Like my son the other day, he's really into Duolingo. He's teaching himself Portuguese. So that's awesome. That's a productive use of his time. And I talk to him a lot about that. I'll say, hey man, we put limits on TikTok, which is something that we don't eliminate it because it's one of the ways that he communicates with his friends. It's very much like, how we may consider a phone to call our friend. They'll send each other messages through Snapchat or TikTok. And I don't see anything inherently bad with that, as long as we manage the amount of time and are conscious about the amount of time he spends on the app. But sometimes I'll be like, Justice, put your phone down. And then I'll hear the ding. I'll be like, oh, wait, he's on Duolingo. Actually turn that back on, finish the Duolingo, then turn your phone off. So It's like, but all of that requires leaning in. We can't just be hands off. We have to lean in and say, okay, if you're going to be on there, what are you on? How long are you on it? And how can you make sure you're being productive with this device instead of, just passing the time?
Well, I know that both my kids, we have them on the Amazon Fire tablets. It's not a plug for Amazon Fire. They were on sale and they came with the indestructible case. So we figured it was a good call. One of the things that the Amazon Fire tablet does let you do as a parent, though, is that you can set time limits, but you can also divide those time limits among different things. So like you can allow a certain amount of time online for reading, with, like online books, and then a lesser amount of time for entertainment, like watching YouTube or Netflix, and then like a certain amount of time for games. But really, all the controls in the world, none of it is a substitute for you poking your head over their shoulder and knowing what they're looking at and what they're doing. You really can't just use it as a babysitter. I mean, again, I'm a child of the 80s. I mean, you're about to turn 40. I'm about to turn 52. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and to a large degree, the TV was a babysitter a lot when I was a kid. We plugged in a movie in the VHS, and that let mom and dad go run off and do what they needed to do. But again, it was just that one movie on the VHS. I didn't have the ability to scan through and look at like the entirety of human knowledge, like they do on the internet today. So yeah, you definitely have to keep an eye on what they're looking at, and again, that's awesome. I hadn't even thought about putting the kids on Duolingo, which that would be brilliant. Not sure I would go at Portuguese. I'd like to start my kids with Spanish. I think it would serve them a little bit better here in Durham. Just in general. I know that my kids have a lot of Latinx friends. Both of my kids are at Club Boulevard Elementary right here in town. Because we love the Durham public schools, and we're going to keep them there absolutely as long as we can.
Nice.
But look, I know that you got a busy schedule. We are coming up on an hour of your time, and I really do greatly appreciate all the time that you've given us, Pierce.
My pleasure.
Again, I will tell people, please check out Pierce's website. You'll find links to get all 3 of his albums, 2 of which are now Grammy nominated, multiple books. You'll get information about the series that he's worked on PBS and the rest of it. Again, in the song, you talk about how you wear a lot of hats, man. You wear more hats than any dad that I've ever come into contact with.
Wow.
It's an inspiration to us all, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, look, you have a good one, and hopefully I'll see you around town.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much for those of you who joined us. Again, for the people who will be watching this on repeat when the recording goes to Facebook, I deeply apologize. When I hit the live stream button, I suddenly got an alert saying that StreamYard was having problems streaming to Facebook, and I wasn't going to take too much time trying to fix it because I wanted to value Pierce's time. I appreciate you guys joining us. We will be back in January with a new year. Believe it or not, our guest in January is going to be Philip Fry. And Philip is going to come in and talk to us about the amazing connection that he has built with his kids through a relatively obscure hobby that they've all gotten really involved with. But believe it or not, they do pigeons, like racing pigeons. I'm fascinated by the idea. I love the idea. We're really, really looking forward to seeing Philip on here next month. I haven't set a date with him yet because, let's be honest, we're all just trying to fight our way through the holidays. But we'll have that information to you shortly after Christmas. Everybody, enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy the holidays. Have a good one. Spend time with your kids. Please check out our website. It is athomedad.org. Our membership drive is going to be starting in January, and we're really looking forward to sharing as much as we can about our organization, our mission, and everything that we're trying to do out here. In the meantime, everybody have a great day, and we will see you next time. Thanks.